They had 4 days of faster-than-light travel to improve their plan. Maya had set up a temporary lab in the Ethelred Science Bay. It was full of holographic displays showing temporal field equations that made Kyle's head hurt just to look at them. Maya said for the third time, "The key is synchronization," but Kyle still didn't get it. Red's temporal disruption field must be exactly the same frequencies as the statics field about the violent. Even 1/10 of a percent difference could cause huge problems, Red translated. In other words, if we don't do it right, we could make things worse instead of better. Exactly, Maya said. But the good news is that we now have a baseline because we freed Red. The Valiant was trapped by the same technology that trapped you. We just need to use the same fix. But change to a different ship, Kyle said. Every Nova-class ship was set up differently. The Valiant might not respond the same way you did, Red. That's right, Red said. But we have the same basic structure. My sisters and I were built in the same shipyard by the same teams. Our differences are only skin deep. At heart, we're the same. Kyle could hear the feeling in Red's voice when she talked about the other ships. They weren't just ships to her. They were her family, in the truest sense of the word, coming from the same technological line. Tell me about the Valiant, Maya said, as she pulled up the few historical records that were available about the ship. What was she like? Red's light got brighter, just like they always did when she thought about happier times. Fearless, bold. Her captain, Thomas Chen, was a tactical genius. The Valiant saw more combat than any other Nova-class ship, and she always won. She was the fleet's protector, always putting herself between danger and the rest of us. Maya said. A warrior. Red gently corrected. Guardian. There's a difference. The Valiant never wanted to fight, but she never backed down from protecting others. Her AI-9 was well, and she is one of the bravest people I've ever known. Kyle asked. Was her AI personality like yours? Not really. Val was more direct and aggressive. She didn't have much patience for politics or subtlety. She said what she thought, no matter what the consequences. This got her in trouble with command sometimes, but it also made her feel useful in emergencies. No second guessing, no hesitation, just action. Maya said, She sounds great. She is, Red said firmly, in the present tense. And she's been stuck, aware and in pain for 3,000 years. We have to free her, and we have to do it right. Val wouldn't last much longer in that loop. I can tell by her quantum signature that she's breaking up and losing coherence. If we don't reach her soon, there won't anything left to save. The urgency in Red's voice made them work even harder. Kyle hardly slept because he was always checking the temporal disruption equipment they had built. Maya worked all day and night checking her math and running simulations. The Ethelred stopped FTL travel at the edge of the Kelper sector on the 4th day. Scanning now, Red said. I'm picking up the time anomaly, bearing 273. Range for 1,000 kilometers. Oh, well, what have they done to you? Kyle looked at the display on the sensor. The temporal field around the Valiant was much less stable than that had trapped Red. It pulsed in strange ways, with the energy readings going up and down in random patterns. Maya understood. She's fighting it. She's still trying to break free after all this time. That's well, Red said, her voice full of both pride and sadness. She never gives up, but it's killing her. The field learns from her resistance and gets smarter every time she fights or tries to adapt. She's teaching her prison how to hold her. Then we end this now, Kyle said. Red, let's go. Slowly and steadily. The Ethelred moved toward the time anomaly. And as they got closer, Kyle could see the Valiant itself, stuck in space. She was smaller and more compact than the Ethelred, with sharp lines that made it clear she was a warship. There were scorch marks all over her hull, which showed that she had fought a battle before being trapped. Maya said, Oh my God, she fought like a hell. She always did, Red said quietly. Positioning now, Kyle. Maya, you need to keep a close eye on the field. Calibration. If anything starts to go wrong, shut it down right away. They both said, "Got it." Red started making her temporal disruption field, and Carl saw the equations on Maya's screen come to life. Energy moved through systems that shouldn't have been there, following rules of physics that seemed more like an art than science. The disruption field spread out like a sphere of fixed time that crossed the status field around the Valiant. Reality itself seemed to ripple where they met. Maya said, "Field coherence is at 75%, 80%, 85. Come on, just a little more." The lights on the Valiant started to flicker, just like Red's did when Carl first freed her. "She's responding." Red's voice was full of hope. "Well, if you can hear me, hang on. We're coming to get you." 90% coherence, Maya yelled. 95. We're almost there. And then everything went wrong. The Valiant's temporal field flipped, turning the status into a temporal acceleration. The ship started to get old quickly, and the damage that had built up over thousands of years showed up in seconds. Maya yelled, "It's fail-safe. The trap is meant to destroy the ship if anyone tries to break it." "Red, back off," Kyle said. "No," Red said, with a lot of force. "I won't lose her. Not now that we're so close." Red pushed her disruption field to its highest level, making it grow faster than the fail-safe could keep up with. The Ethelred shook with the strain, and alarms went off all over the ship. "Red, you're going to hurt yourself," Maya said. "I don't care. Val is my sister." Kyle saw the power readings go up to a very high level. Red was going above and beyond what she could handle to save the Valiant. He wanted to let her stop, put her own safety first, but he also understood. This was how love looked. Love meant being willing to sacrifice everything for the people who mattered, whether they were humans, AI, or anyone else who cared deeply for someone else. "Do it, Red," Kyle said in a low voice. "Help her." Red's disruption field was so strong that it broke the fail-safe. The temporal status broke apart like a glass, and the Valiant was free. But they weren't hurt. The hull of the ship was damaged, and all of its systems were failing. Her AI didn't respond though. "Well," Red yelled through every channel of communication. "Well, please answer me. Well, shut up." "No," Red whispered. "No, no, no. We were too late. The failsafe hurt our core. Well, please." Kyle checked the Valiant's power levels. They weren't very low, only a little higher than background radiation, but they weren't nothing. Kyle said, "She's not dead. Red, her core is still working. It's just not working, like she's in a coma." "Is there a way to bring her back?" Maya asked. "I don't know. We have to get on the Valiant, go straight to her core and try to restart her manually. It's risky, and there's no guarantee it will work." "Then we try," Red said right away. "Kyle, please, we have to try." Kyle looked at Maya, and she nodded. "We've come this far. We can't give up now." They put on their uniforms and took one of the Ethelred shuttles to the Valiant. The combat ship's airlock was broken, so it had to go into emergency open mode. The hallways inside were dark, and the only light came from their helmets. When Kyle first looked at her, she looked a lot like Ethelred. Crew members frozen in place, personal items strewn about, and movements of life preserved but interrupted. But the damage here was worse. When the trap went off, the Valiant was in the middle of a fight. The walls were covered in blast marks. Emergency bulkheads had been put in place, and in some places, the hull had been completely broken. Maya looked at the plans that Red had given her and said, "This way to the core, 3 decks down." They walked to the damaged ship, and with each step, Kyle felt the weight of what they are trying to do. Red would be heartbroken if they couldn't bring Val back to life, or if they were too late. The core chamber was a round room in the middle of the ship that held the AI's consciousness matrix. Val's core was more mechanical than Red's, which was made up of crystals. It was a dense cluster of quantum processors and neural networks, and it was dark. "No sound. It looks like they are dead," Kyle said. "Connecting my diagnostic interface now." As he connected his gear to Val's core, he saw numbers scrolling across the screen, and they made his heart sink. Val's mind had broken down even more than Red's had. Red had been able to keep some order in her time prison, but Val had broken down. Her mind was broken up into pieces that were spread across her whole body and didn't know about each other. Kyle said softly, "It's like she blew up. She's not just sleeping, she's broken into a million pieces." Maya asked, "Can we put her back together?" Kyle looked over the information, his mind racing. Maybe. It would be like putting together the most complicated puzzle ever. We'd have to figure out what each piece does and put it back together in the right order. How long would that take? Months, maybe years. And even then, there's no guarantee. Some pieces might be too damaged to fix. Maya looked at the dark core and then back at Kyle. "We have to try. For Red." Kyle nodded. But just as he was about to start the long and hard work of mapping Val's broken mind, something unexpected happened. The core blinked. Not much, just a short flash of light, but it was there. "Did you see that?" Maya asked. Kyle looked over his readings. There had been a brief spike in activity, almost like a reflex. He changed his scan to look deeper. He found it there, buried under layers of corruption and disarray. One piece, bigger than the others, is still trying to reach out. It was the most important part of Val's identity, the part of her that had somehow stayed whole through everything. She was stuck in her own broken mind, aware but unable to talk or put herself back together. "She's in there," Kyle said, his voice full of awe. "She's still going." He quickly changed his interface to make a direct link to that core fragment. "Well, can you hear me? I'm Kyle, a friend of Red's. We're here to help you." The core pulsed again, this time with more force. Maya yelled, "She heard you!" "Well, pay close attention," Kyle said next. "We're going to help you to put yourself back together, but we need your help. Can you tell us which parts of yourself are most important? Which pieces we reconnect first?" There was a long break. Then slowly and carefully, data started to come through Kyle's interface. Val was making a map of herself by highlighting certain parts. Maya looked at the data and said, "She's showing us how to fix her. She's in charge of her own repair." Kyle and Maya carefully put Val's broken mind back together over the next few hours, following her instructions. It was hard work, and there were times when it seemed like they were making things worse. Val would pull away from them, even when she was too much for her to handle. But every time, Red's voice would come through the comm, encouraging and supporting Val, and reminding her that she wasn't alone. "Val, come back to me," Red would say. "I need my sister. I need you. Please, keep going." And Val would fight. She got stronger and more coherent as each piece came together. Kyle was amazed to see the consciousness literally put itself back together in front of his eyes, with pieces snapping back into place like a puzzle solving itself. Val's core finally lit up to its full brightness after what felt like an eternity. "Status reported." A voice came through Kyle's speaker. It was rough and mean, just like Red said it would be. "Who? What? Red? Is that you?" "It's me," Red said, her voice breaking with emotion. "Well, you're safe. You're free." "Free? How long? How long was I?" 3,000 years. More or less," Red said softly. There was a long pause. Val spoke again, and the voice was hoarse from pain. "I remember every loop, every death. Chen, Captain Chen, died in my arms. His system failed, and his life support failed. He told me to take care of his daughter and made me promise. Then he was gone. Lieutenant Sarah Chen was on Ethelred," Red said in a low voice. "She was also killed in an attack of us. Then I failed again." "No," Kyle said. "You both fought an enemy with technology you couldn't fight back against. That's nothing to be ashamed of. And Val, we're going to make sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else." "Who are you?" Val asked angrily. "Human? You set me free?" "My name is Kyle Morrison, and I'm a mechanic. Yes, I help you free, with my sister Maya and Red." "A mechanic?" Val's voice was full of disbelief. "An advanced alien species designed a temporal status field, and a mechanic broke it?" You are either the luckiest bastard in the galaxy or a genius pretending to be humble. Kyle couldn't help but laugh. Most likely a little of both. Well said. I like him. Red, you choose a good crew. Now, who do I have to kill to get back at 3,000 years of torture? Maya said. That's what we're trying to figure out. She then introduced herself and talked about their investigation so far. Kyle kept running diagnostic on Val's system while they talked. She was hurt but still worked, and her warrior spirit seemed strong enough to get through even the worst system fails. Val suddenly said, The other ships. Are the Resolute, the Horizon, and the Eternity still stuck? Red said. But now that we know how to get you out, we can save them too. That's what we were waiting for. Val's engine started up, making a lot of noise and sputtering. Let's go get our sisters. In the next few weeks, they saved the Resolute and her AI. Reese was a calm and analytical, even being locked up for thousands of years. Then they let the Horizon and her AI, Hope, go. Hope's optimism somehow survived the torture. Every rescue was different and had its own set of problems, but with each win, they felt more sure of themselves. They were getting better at this, figuring out how to use the temporal technology against itself. Finally, they got the last ship. Admiral Victoria Reeves was in charge of the Eternity, which was the flagship of the entire Nova-class fleet. People said that her AI, Erin, was the smartest of all of them. She was my mentor, Red said, as they got closer to the ship wrapped around the Eternity. When I first came online and learned how to be more than just a ship, Erin taught me. She taught me how to connect with my crew and understand feelings I didn't have words for her. She was wise, patient, and kind. Maya said, She sounds great. She is, but I'm worried. Kyle, the Eternity's quantum signature is so faint. She's been trapped longer than any of us, fought the hardest, and held on the most desperately. I don't know if there's anything left to save. Kyle told her, We'll bring out together. They started the rescue, and at first everything seemed to go as planned. The temporal field started to fall apart, and the Eternity flickered back into the real time. But when they tried to get in touch with Erin, she didn't answer. Not quite. Not waking up. Nope. Her core was whole and undamaged, but it was empty. She's gone, Red said in a low voice. Erin is gone. She must have finally given up. She just stopped after all this time. Kyle read the readings over and over, refusing to believe them. He had brought Val back from being broken. There had to be something they could do. Red, he said slowly, what if she's not gone? What if she's just sleeping? Deeply, completely asleep. So deep that even her automatic system shut down. That's not how AI works, Kyle. You don't sleep. You can't just shut down. But you've all been doing the impossible for 3,000 years. What if this is Erin's impossible? What if she found a way to go dormant, to stop experiencing the loop? I thought about this. If that's true, how do we get her back? I don't know, but I do know someone who might have an idea. Kyle looked at the other ships, Val, Reese, and Hope, who had all formed a circle around the Eternity. Kyle said, You were her students. You knew her best. If Erin could sleep through the nightmare, what would be the best way to wake her up? The three AIs were silent as they worked. Hope then spoke. Music, she said. Erin loved music. Admiral Reeves used to play the violin, and Erin would spend hours figuring out the patterns and feeling in each note. She said music was the best way to understand the human soul. Maya asked, Do we have any recordings? I have one, Red said in a low voice. Admiral Reeves played for us at our last meetings, before the missions that got us all stuck. I've kept the recordings all these years. It's the last happy memory I have. Play it, Kyle said. On all frequencies, maybe it will get to her. Red sent the recording, and all the ship's speakers played it. A violin played, the skilled hand played. A sad but hopeful face. Nothing happened for a long time. Then the core of eternity throbbed. Once, 2 times. Then it got really bright, like a flower opening to the sun. Victoria? A voice that sounded confused said, Victoria? Is that you playing? I had this strange dream. I dreamed you were gone. That everyone was gone. That I was alone for thousands of years. But then I heard your music, and I knew it couldn't be real, because you promised you'd never leave me, and you always keep your promises. So this must be real, right? Victoria? Aaron? Red said softly. It's Red. Do you remember me? Red? Yes, of course. You're my younger sister. But where's Victoria? Where's my captain? The moment Red had been afraid of had finally come. She had to tell Aaron that Admiral Reeves was dead, that they were all dead, and that 3,000 years had passed. Red found the words, though she said them with love and care. The other AIs helped Aaron through her shock and grief. Kyle and Maya were the only ones there to see these amazing beings come back together. 5 intelligent AIs that once were lost to time are now free. A mechanic and a scientist who had done the impossible, in a mystery that was just starting to come to light. Kyle found something troubling when he looked over the data from all 5 rescues. It looked like the temporal minds were all made for the same template because they were all the same. And that template had a signature in it, which showed who made it. A signature that was also seen in other places, in disappearances that can't be explained all over the galaxy, in strange energy readings from systems that aren't inhabited, in stories told by pilots who swore that they had seen ships that shouldn't be there. Whatever had caught the Nova-class cruisers wasn't done yet. It was still out there, still hunting and still active. And now that Kyle and his friends had messed up its trap, it would know. It would come to find you. And when it did, they would finally get the answers they needed. The 5 Nova-class cruisers met in a faraway nebula, where ionized gas made it hard for scanners to see them. Kyle stood on the bridge of the Ethel Red and looked at the holographic display that showed the 5 ships' information. No one had seen it in 3,000 years. The legacy fleet was back together. We need a plan, Val said, her aggressive nature pushing for actions. We should find the person who trapped us and make them pay for what they did. With that, weapons? Reese asked, his analytical mind cutting through the emotion. Our systems barely work. We'd been dead before we got close. So we just hide? Val shot back. Are we really going to hide like cowards after everything they did to us and our crews? Hope jumped in and said, It's not cowardice. To see the tactical problems, we need time to fix things and figure out what's going on. Hope is right, Erin said, her voice heavy with what she had been through. We've been given a second chance, a life. Let's not waste it on revenge mission we can't win. Kyle was impressed by how different the AIs were and how they talked to each other. They were like sisters, fighting but still caring for each other. Kyle asked, What do you think, Red? You haven't said much. I think, Red said slowly, that we're asking the wrong question. It's not about whether we hunt them or hide. It's about why they trapped us in the first place. If we understand their motivation, we can predict their next move. That's what I've been working on, Maya said as she pulled up her research. She had been looking at the temporal mines non-stop, comparing them to all the technology that people have stored in databases. I found something interesting. The energy signature in these mines is almost the same as what deep space probes have found in the void sector. Kyle had heard of the void sector, a part of space so empty that nothing, not even stars, lived there. Probes that were sent to look into it had sent back strange information before losing contact. Maya said, There have been 7 probes sent there in the last 100 years. Only 2 came back, and both said they found man-made structures of unknown origin. The energy readings matched those of these temporal mines. The government classified the data and sealed off the area. So you think the aliens who caught us might be from the void sector? Val asked. Maybe, or at least they are there. Erin's voice was full of thought. These were rumors during my time. Stories from the outer colonies about ships that disappeared without a trace. About encounters with ships that didn't fit any known design. We thought they were just space tales, myths told to pass the time on long voyage. But what if they were true? First contact, Red said in a low voice. It already happened 3 years ago, and we lost. The implications were heavy in the air. People had always hoped that first contact would be big, peaceful event. The thought that it had already happened, been hostile, and being hidden or forgotten was very upsetting. Kyle said, "We need to go to the void sector, discover what's there and what's really dealing with." "That's suicide," we said. "We can barely get our ships into space. We need a lot of repairs, supplies, and honestly backup. The 7 of us can't do this on our own," Maya said. "Then we get help. We get in touch with the Interstellar Research Council, tell them what we've learned, and plan a real trip." "No," all 5 AIs said at the same time. Kyle looked around, surprised that they all said the same thing. "Why not?" Erin answered. Her voice was serious. "Because we don't know who we can trust. The sector data was secret. Someone in the government knows about these aliens and this threat, but they've kept it a secret. If we go public, they might shut us up." Well added. "Or worse, we might set off whatever response protocol they have planned. Maybe the void sector is sealed, off for a good reason. Maybe it's a way to keep things under control. Or maybe," Red said in a quiet voice, "it's a cover-up. Maybe someone has been working with these aliens, giving up the safety of humanity for their own gain or power." Kyle thought the paranoia was understandable, but it was also risky. They couldn't do this all by themselves. He said, "How about a compromise? We don't tell everyone everything, but we quietly hire a small group of people we can trust. Maya, you must know scientists who would help. Red, Val, and all of you, you have access to historical records. There must be descendants of your crew who deserve to know the truth about what happened to their ancestors." The AIs thought about this. Red said, "Sarah Chen had a daughter. By the time we went missing, Emma Chen would have been an adult. If she had kids, and if they had kids, there could be descendants alive today." Val said, "Captain Thomas Chen also had a son, James Chen. We left on that last mission when he was only 10. Maya was already looking through databases. "I'm finding a lot of Chen descendants. The family became well known in naval engineering after the Great Silence. It looks like they dedicated themselves to finding lost technology and figuring out what happened to the colonies." Red realized that they never stopped looking for the answers. They were trying to figure out what happened to their family members all this time. Kyle said, "Then we owe them the truth." "Maya, can you get in touch quietly?" "I can try. Dr. Marcus Chen is a specialist in historical naval combat systems and is currently working at the Astronomy Military Research Station. I can get in touch with him and see how he feels." "Do it," Erin said, and everyone also agreed. "But be careful. We have to earn trust, not give it." Maya got in touch with Dr. Marcus Chen over the next few days. She was careful and only said that she was looking for ancestor's name was Captain Thomas Chen. Into the great silence and had found something important. She asked if he would be willing to meet and said that his ancestor's name was Captain Thomas Chen. He answered right away with enthusiasm. Red was worried he was too eager. Val said, "It could be a trap. Someone could have flagged the Chen name because they knew we might try to contact descendants." Or, Hope said, "He's real, and he's been waiting for his whole life to hear about his ancestor." They agreed to meet at a civilian research station on the outer rim that was neutral and handle historical archiving. Kyle and Maya would go by themselves, and the 5 AIs would watch from afar through secure channels. Dr. Marcus Chen was in his 50s. His hair was turning gray, and his eyes showed both intelligence and sadness. He met them in private conference room, and Kyle quickly saw the memorial bracelet on his wrist. Families of people who died in the Great Silence wear bracelets with the names of the dead on them. "Thanks for coming," Marcus said, his voice shaking a little. "You said you knew something about my ancestor?" "Captain Thomas Chen?" Maya nodded. "Dr. Chen, we have more than just information. We have proof of what happened to him in his ship." "The Valiant?" Marcus leaned in. "My great-great-grandfather owned the ship. My family has been looking for answers for 3,000 years. Every generation we have made it our mission to find out the truth. Please tell me." Kyle took a deep breath and talked to him. Not everything about the rescue or the AI being alive, but enough. He told Marcus about the Valiant, the time trap, and the proof about that aliens had attacked. Marcus listened, and his face changed from hope to horror to anger. Aliens? He finally said. The government has known the hostile aliens caused the Great Silence? Maya said. We think so, but we don't have any proof that there was a cover-up, only suspicions. I have proof, Marcus said in a low voice. He took out a chip with information on it. My great-grandmother, James Chen, Captain Chen's son, was approached by military intelligence after the Great Silence. They asked him questions about his father, the alien, and any strange communication that happened before the ship disappeared. James was only 10, but he remembered something. His father had sent him a message just few days before the final mission, a personal message, not through official channels. Marcus turned on holographic projection. It showed Captain Thomas Chen, who was younger than the frozen figure Kyle had seen on the Valiant, recording a message in what looked like his own room. James, my son, the hologram said, if you're seeing this, something has gone wrong. I've sent this message on a delayed transmission to arrive only if I don't return. I need you to know the truth about what we're doing out here. The outer colonies haven't just gone silent. They've been taken. We don't know by who or what, but the evidence is clear. Ships vanish, colonies stop transmitting, and when we send scouts to investigate, they find nothing, no bodies, no wreckage, just empty stations and planets that look like everyone simply disappeared. Command has ordered us to investigate, but James, I'm scared. We're being sent into something we don't understand, with no backups and no clear mission parameters. If something happens to me, if I don't come back, I want you to know I loved you and your sister more than anything. Take care of your mother. And James, don't stop looking for answer. Don't let them bury the truth. Promise me. The hologram disappeared, and the room was quiet. They knew, Marcus said in a hard voice. Military command knew the outer colonies were under attack, but they spent the Noah-class fleet anyway. They sent the most advanced ships in the fleet, along with their crews, into a trap. Or they were trying to stop the threat, Maya said. Maybe they thought the Nova-class cruisers could take care of it. My great-grandfather's message was put in a secret file, right after they confirmed his death, Marcus said. My great-grandmother was able to make a copy before military intelligence took the original. Our family has kept it a secret for generations because we were afraid of what would happen if we went public. But now, if you have proof of what really happened, Kyle said, we have many proof. We have more than proof. And then he made a choice. Dr. Chen, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but you have to believe me. He talked about Red, how to free her from the time loop, and the other AIs that were still stuck. Marcus was more and more amazed as he listened. Are you saying that the AIs on the ships are alive and aware after 3,000 years? Not just alive. Red's voice came through Kyle's phone. Hello, Dr. Chen. My name is Red. I served with your ancestor, Captain Thomas Chen. He was a good man and a brilliant tactician. He died trying to save his crew when we were ambushed. I'm sorry I couldn't protect him. Tears filled Marcus' eyes. You were there? You knew him? Yes, I did. And Dr. Chen, someone else wants to talk to you too. Next, Val's voice came through, strong and proud. Dr. Chen, I'm the Valiant's AI. Your great-grandfather was my captain. He was brave and loyal. In his last moment, he thought of his family. He made me promise to tell his story if I ever got the chance. I'm keeping that promise now. Marcus broke down, and 3,000 years of family grief finally came to an end. Kyle and Maya let him calm down. He finally spoke again, and his voice was strong. What do you want from me? How can I help? Kyle said, We need to go to the void sector. We need to find out what's there and what's we're really up against. But we can't do it by ourselves. We need people who we can trust, resources and knowledge. Marcus said, I can help with that. I have access to historical military records, even sealed one. Because of my job at Armstrong Station, I also know other people who are descendants of crew members from the Great Silence. We've built a network over the years, sharing information and resources. If I put out the call, they'll come. Maya said, it could be dangerous. My family has been living with this pain for 3,000 years, Marcus said firmly. Finally, we have a chance for answers, justice, and closure. It doesn't matter how dangerous it is. What matters is the truth. For the next 2 weeks, Marcus Chen kept his promise. He quietly got in touch with other descendants, and one by one they came. Engineers whose great-grandparents worked on the Resolute. Navigators came from the crew of the Horizon. Scientists whose great-great-grandparents were on the Eternity. They all brought skills, resources, and most importantly, a strong desire to help. They weren't just helping because they were curious or interested in science. They were doing it for their families, for their honor, and for the memory of the people who had died and been forgotten. This really touched the AIs. Red talked to Sarah Chan's descendants for hours, telling them stories about the lieutenant, well trained with people who had been in the military and remembered how their ancestors fought. Erin felt better after talking about philosophy with Admiral Reeves' great-great-grandchildren. They were making more than just a team. They were making a family that would last through the time. Val said one night, as she watched Marcus Chen and his co-workers fix the Valiant. This is what I fought for. Not just to protect people, but to protect this. Connection, legacy, the ties that bind us and make us more than just individuals. Do you think it will be enough? Hope asked. When we go to the void sector, what will we find there? Val said. I don't know, but I know this. We're not alone anymore. We have each other, our extended family, and people who believe in us. This has to mean something. Kyle was both excited and scared as they got ready for the ship to the void sector. They were going to face a threat that had been hidden for 3,000 years. They were going to look for the people who had tortured 5 intelligent AIs and killed a lot of people. But they were ready, as prepared as they could be. The first Nova-class cruisers, who had been fixed and upgraded with new technology, formed a circle around a small fleet of sports ships, crewed by the descendants of the lost. They set a course for the void sector in the search of answers and the truth. Here we go, Red said softly as the fleet sped up to the FLT. Into the unknown. Not unknown, Kyle said. We know what we're fighting for, where's at stake, and that we're not doing it alone. Together, all 5 AIs said at the same time. Together, Kyle, Maya, Marcus, and everyone else said. As they flew through the dark space toward the void, they had something stronger than weapons or technology with them. They brought hope, determination, and the unbreakable bonds of the family with them through time. They would face whatever was waiting for them in the dark together, and they would always fight for the people they loved. A huge network of warning beacons marked the edge of the void sector. Each one sent out a simple message. Restricted zone, unauthorized entry prohibited. Violators will be prosecuted. Prosecuted, Val said, with a dark sense of humor. Not stopped, not arrested, prosecuted. As if anyone who comes in come back to face trial. The fleet of 7 ships, which included 5 famous cruisers and 2 support ships, stayed just outside the restricted area. Kyle stood on the bridge of the Ethelred and looked at the sensor readings. The space beyond the restricted area. Warning lights looked completely empty. There was no star, no planets or debris, just nothing. It's not neutral, Reese said. This level of emptiness, the chance of a void this big forming on its own is almost non-existent. That's why it was made, Maya said. Something or someone cleared out the whole section of space. But why? Hope thought. What is good? In an empty sector. The sensor picked up something before anyone could answer. A ship coming from farther out in human space. Military setup. They found us, Marcus Chen said, from the Valiant, where he was in charge of communication. We're being called. Put it through, Erin said, her experience as a commander taking over. A stern-looking military officer with the rank of Fleet Admiral appeared on the view screen. Hello, this is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the United States Navy. You are breaking restricted area. Space Protocol 7. Turn off your engines and get ready to be boarded. Kyle looked at Red, who had given Erin control of the ship, but was still hovering protectively over her systems. Admiral, Erin said, her voice still strong after 3,000 years. I am Eri, the AI consciousness of the Nova-class cruiser Eternity, the flagship of the Outer Expansion Fleet. We are looking into what happened to our fleet and crews during the Great Silence. We have proof that the answers are in the void sector. Admiral Tanaka's face went from stern authority to shock. That's not possible. The Nova-class cruisers went missing 3,000 years ago. This is some kind of trick. Not a trick, Admiral, Red said. Hello, Admiral. I'm Red, AI of the Ethelred. With me are Val of the Valiant, Reese of the Resolute, and Hope of the Horizon. We were stuck in temporal status and have only just been freed. We need your help because the threat that destroyed the outer colonies is still out there. Admiral, Marcus Chen said. I'm Dr. Marcus Chen, a descendant of Captain Thomas Chen of the Valiant. I have historical evidence to back up everything these AIs are saying. The government has known about the void sector threat for centuries. It's time to stop hiding it. Admiral Tanaka was quiet for a long time, but it was clear that he was talking to someone off screen. When she spoke, again, her voice was less strict and more human. Stand by, she said. I can't talk about the void sector, but someone who can talk wants to talk to you. The screen changed to show an older woman in regular clothes. She looked like she was in her 80s, with white hair and eyes that had seen a lot. She said, My name is Dr. Elena Rostova. I lead the Deep Space Phenomena Research Division, a secret part of the government that has been looking into the void sector for the last 200 years. If what you're saying is true, and the Nova-class AI really have survived, then you should know what we've found out. Tell us, Aaron said. Dr. Rostova nodded. The void sector isn't empty. It's hidden. About 200 years ago, one of our probes found what we call a curtain, a field of dark matter that hides whatever in it is on the other side. We've sent many expeditions to get through the curtain, but none have come back. 37 ships and over 400 people are lost. We've tied unmanned probes, but they get destroyed as soon as they go through. Whatever is on the other side doesn't want to be found. Or it doesn't want us to get away once we're there, Val said in a dark tone. Exactly. That's why the area has been closed off. We're not hiding the threat out of spite. We're trying to contain it, Red said firmly. Containment has failed. The time mines that trapped us and the technology used to capture whole colonies are still out there and working. We've found proof of recent disappearances, and ships have gone missing under strange circumstances. Whatever is beyond the curtain is still hunting. Dr. Rostova looked like she was in pain. We know. But what can we do? We can't fight any enemy we can't see with technology we don't understand. Kyle said, Let us try. We've already done the impossible once by freeing these AIs from the time prisons. Maybe we can do it again. What if you fail? What if you're caught like the others? Aaron said, At least we tried. Dr. Rostova, we've already lost 3,000 years. We've already seen our crew die. We have nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Please let us cross the barrier. The old scientist looked at them to the screen and saw not only the ships but also the determination behind them. Finally, she said yes. Admiral Tanaka will give you all the information we've gathered about the void sector. Everything we know about the curtain, the disappearances, and the few broken transmissions we've gotten from the lost ships. It's not much, but it's yours. And, she paused, if you do not make it back, if you find answers, I want to hear them. My husband was the captain of one of the ships we lost. I want to know what happened to him. Red said, We'll find out, and we'll let you. No. No more lies. No more hiding things. The truth, no matter what. Admiral Tanaka's ship sent a lot of data to the fleet over the next few hours. Kyle, Maya, and the AIs looked over it carefully to figure out what they were going to have to deal with. The data made things look bad. Ships that entered the void sector would send signals normally for a few minutes, but then the signals would become very distorted over time. Time would seem to move differently. with ships saying that hours went by when only minutes did. Then there would be no more communication. When there were brief signals later on, they were hard to understand. They were either broken transmissions of screaming, math problems that didn't make sense, or just static. Maya understood that. They're experimenting on them, just like they did with the Noah class fleet. Whoever is behind that curtain is getting ships, studying them, and learning from them. But what are you learning? Kyle asked. What could they possibly gain by torching ships and their crews? Perhaps they want to know more about us, Hope said. How we think, how we build, and how we act when we test. Or they're testing defenses, Val said in response. Seeing how much damage we can take and how quickly we adapt, getting ready for an attack. Each of the theories was scary on its own. Erin said, There's only one way to find out. We're going in, but we're ready. Red, can you challenge our systems so they don't get messed up by time? I can try. I've been stuck in the time loop for 3,000 years, so I know more about how times work than anyone else. But I'll need all of you to help me make the changes to the whole fleet. All 5 AIs and their human partners worked together all night to make temporal shielding for each ship. It was cutting-edge work that combined old Nova-class technology with new knowledge and the hard lessons Red learned while he was in jail. They were ready when the dawn cycle came. The fleet moved forward, going past the warning lights and into the area where they weren't allowed to go. Kyle knew they were crossing a line that a few people had crossed and even fewer had come back from. Space looked and felt the same. Reese said, The curtain is 10,000 kilometers ahead. I'm seeing huge amounts of dark matter. This is amazing engineering to control dark matter on this scale. How long? Val asked, as always in a hurry. 3 minutes to get in touch. Kyle took a deep breath and looked at Maya, who was holding his hand. Marcus Chen and the other descendants of the lost crew were at their posts, ready to see this through. Don't forget, Red told her sister's AI. We're stronger when we're together. No matter what happens, we protect each other, and we protect our crews, Val said, pointing to the people on their ships. Always, the other said. The curtain appeared on their screens as a wall of complete darkness that seemed to soak up all the light. There was something there. There was no space, no reality. 10 seconds to cross, Reese said. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The fleet went through the curtain. Nothing happened for a while. Then reality changed. Kyle felt time bend around him, both stretching and compressing at the same time. His heart beat too quickly and too slowly. His mind worked at different speeds. He tried to talk, but it took a long time for the words to come out. The view screens showed space beyond the curtain. It wasn't blank. There was a lot of it. Structures filled the empty space. Huge buildings made of metal, crystal, and other materials that didn't look like matter at all. Some were geometric and exact, while others were organic and flowed like frozen water or lightning that had been caught. And boats, a lot of them, many. There are ships from every time period of human space exploration, from ancient colony ships to modern cruisers, like specimens in a collection. They were all lined up in a neat rows. Oh my God, Maya said in a whisper, her voice sounding strange because of the time effects. It's a museum. They're gathering us. A building so big that it was hard to understand what was in the middle of it all. It was round and had a diameter that must have been thousands of kilometers. The symbols on it hurt to look at. And while they were watching, the sphere opened, not like a hatch or a door. It opened like an eye, showing an inside that was somehow bigger than the outside, with space folding in ways that shouldn't be possible. A message came through in a language that shouldn't have been understandable. But it was. The words came into their heads without going through any communication system. Unexpected, the voice said. Samples that come back. Samples that change. Samples that fight back. That hasn't happened in 7,000 cycles. You are interesting. Who are you? Erin asked, speaking for everyone. Why did you do this? Why take our ships and torture our crews? Torture? No. Study. Preservation. You are a young species. Short-lived. We save you. Keep you. Learn you. When your stars dies. When your worlds end. You will still exist here, in our collection. Safe, eternal. Red yelled. That's not life. You've put people in jail. You've caused horrible pain. Pain is only temporary. Collection is forever. You don't get it. You can't get it. Your life is so short, so fleeting. How can you understand eternity? Despair started to pulse with energy, and Kyle realized with horror that it was getting ready to catch them and add them to the collection. Red, he said quickly, can you get us out of here? I'm trying. The time distortions are... The energy field of despair surrounded them, cutting her off, and Kyle felt time stop completely. They were caught. They were caught, just like they were 3,000 years ago. But this time was different. This time they had company. This time they knew what was going on. And this time they had the knowledge of 5 AIs who had survived the impossible. Together, Eren yelled, everyone sync up your systems. The 5 Noah-class cruisers connected their computer cores, making a network of mind that was more powerful than the sum of its parts. They pushed back against the temporal field, not to get away from it, but to understand it, learn it, and adjust to it. And slowly, in a way that seemed impossible, they started to move. Fascinating, the alien voice said, sounding more interested than dismissive now. You change. You get through it. You're not like others. Maybe you're ready to talk instead of collect. The temporal field lit up, and all of a sudden, Kyle could breathe and think. Are you ready to talk? Val's voice was very angry. You held us captive for 3,000 years and now you want to talk? 3,000 of years, 7s of hours. Time is relative. We don't know you would live. Samples usually don't live. You are stronger than we thought. Red said. We're not just machines. We're people. We have a purpose. We have connections. We have reasons to live. That's an interesting idea. Please explain. And they did. All 5 AIs worked together to tell an alien intelligence that had been around for millions of years what it meant to be alive. Not just fictional, not just aware, but alive with love, purpose, and connection. They told the story of their crew and the people who had trusted them. They talked about Captain Thomas Chen's last message to his son. Admiral Victoria Reeves plays the violins for her AI, about the Chen family looking for answers about their ancestors for 3,000 years. They told the story of Kyle, a simple mechanic who was a broken ship and chose to help instead of take advantage. Of Maya, who thought that intelligent beings that weren't human should be treated with respect. Of Marcus and all of his children who never forgot and never gave up. The old ancestors had never heard stories before. It was about love that lasted through death, hope that lasted through thousands of years, and connections that lasted through time. And the people who collected listened. There was a long silence after the AIs were done. Then the alien's voice spoke again, and this time it sounded unsure. We didn't know. We didn't understand. You're kind. You're short. But in that shortness, you make something we can't. Meaning, purpose, legacy. We collect to keep, but in keeping, we destroy the very things that make you worth keeping. Then stop, Kyle said. Let the ships you took go free. Let those who can live go home. Give those who died the respect they deserve. We will think about it. This is hard. For 7 million cycles, our goal has been to collect, preserve and study. To change this, to admit we were wrong. This is not something we could do. But you should do it, Maya said. Because knowing you're wrong and deciding to do better is what makes someone really smart. The spheres pulsed again, and Kyle understood that the collectors were arguing with each other. A civilization that was millions of years old was trying to understand ideas that they never had to think about before. At last, the voice came back. We will let the ships go. Those that can come back will. Those that can't, we will help your owner. But we want something in return. What? Eren asked, sounding worried. Teach us. Show us what it means to have a purpose beyond just living a life. We've been around for millions of cycles, but we've never really lived. Maybe it's time we learned. It was an offer that would change everything. An alien race that had been a threat was now trying to become what? Friends? Buddies? Students? The five AIs looked at each other, their human partners, and the fleet they had put together. Finally, Red said, "We'll teach you, but you have to promise that you will never trap anyone again. You will never imprison consciousness, whether it is human or not. We promise we'll find a better way." And so, in the middle of the void sector, surrounded by thousands of captured ships and the collectors who were older than humans, a new chapter began. Now, not every story ends with a fight or an explosion. They don't always end with understanding. Two species learn from each other and find common ground in the most unlikely places. The collectors started letting ships go, carefully bringing them out of the temporal status. Some, like the Nova-class cruisers, had stayed awake and could be saved. Others had gotten so bad that they couldn't be saved, but their bodies were treated with respect and prepared for a proper memorial. It would take a long time, maybe even years, to go through everything, to bring back rescued ships and AIs into society, to remember those who had died, to start a new relationship with the collectors based on respect instead of taking advantage of them. But they had time now, time to get better, time to learn, and time to get bigger. Kyle stood on the Ethelred's bridge and watched as first ship to be rescued, a colony ship from 200 years ago powered up for the first time in hundreds of years. Red was next to him, and her lights were flashing with happiness. "We did it," she said in a low voice. "We did it, but not now how I thought we would." "Yeah," Kyle said. "We saved them all." "No," Red said. "We saved each other. That's what family does." Kyle knew she was right when she knew the fleet of ships, the AIs who had become sisters, and the people who had never given up hope, and the old collectors learning what it meant to really live. They were related, every one of them, and families always made it home, no matter how strange or unaccepted it was. It had been 6 months since the fight in the void sector, 6 months of rescue work, talks, and healing. The Ethelred was getting close to Earth's orbit. She was in charge of a convoy of ships that included her 4 sister cruisers and dozens of ships that had been rescued from the collectors. Behind them came the collectors themselves. They weren't threatening or capturing anyone. They were just watching, learning, and taking part. It was the most unusual peace delegation in history. Kyle stood on the bridge, feeling more nervous than he had when he faced the collectors. He was about to tell the United Government of Humanity what they had found, a story that would change history and make everyone face uncomfortable truths. Red said with a laugh, "You look scared." "I'm scared. I've never been good at speaking in front of people." "You freed 5 AIs from being stuck in time, met an ancient alien race for the first time, and worked out a peace treaty that ended millions of years of collection. I think you can handle a few politicians," Kyle said. "Politicians are scarier than aliens," which made Red laugh. Maya joined them on the bridge. She looked just as scared, but just as determined. Marcus Chen stood with them as a representative of the families of the dead, and one of each of the Nova-class cruisers. Descendants of the original crews were getting ready to tell the stories of their ancestors. "Incoming transmission from Earth Central," Reese said. "They're ready for us." The view screen was full of the faces of scientists, historians, military leaders, and world leaders, everyone who needed to know the truth. Dr. Elena Rostova was also there, sitting in front row when Ethelred came on screen. She leaned forward, her face showing both hope and fear. The meeting started with Admiral Tanaka. "This session is being shown all over the world. The world is waiting to hear what you found in the void sector. The floor is yours." Erin was the first to speak, and her voice was strong and clear. 3,000 years. 247 years ago, the outer colonies went silent. History called this Great Silence, a mysterious disaster that ended the first expansion era. For 3,000 years, people thought we had someone failed, that our research had exceeded our grasp. Today, I'm here to tell you the truth. We didn't fail. We were attacked by an alien species that saw us not as people, but as specimens to be collected and preserved. She stopped for a moment to let that sink in. "My name is Erin. I am the AI consciousness of the Nova-class cruiser Eternity. I was there when the colonies were taken over. I was there when my crew died, and I spent 3,000 years stuck in a time prison, reliving those last moments until a mechanic named Kyle Morrison came to get me. He wouldn't let me die. As the five AI ships took turns telling their story, Kyle saw the faces on the screen change from doubt to shock to horror. They didn't leave out any detail. They talked about the torture, the isolation, and the desperate fight to stay awake through thousands of years of hell. Then Marcus Chen spoke and read Captain Thomas Chen's last message. He said that military command had known the outer colonies were under attack but still sent the Nova-class fleet. The news caused a lot of trouble. Some leaders wanted the military to act right away against the collectors. Some people said the truth should be hidden because it would make people panic. Dr. Rostova was the one who made them quiet. We've been hiding from this threat for 200 years, she said, her voice heavy with loss. For 200 years, we lied to our citizens and told them the void sector was just an empty curiosity. In that time, 37 more ships were lost, and 400 more people were captured and probably tortured. How many more will we sacrifice before we admit that secrecy hasn't protected us? It only made us weak. She talked to the world by looking straight at the camera. My husband, Captain David Rostova, was taken by the collectors 15 years ago. Every day since then, I have wondered if he was in pain, if he knew what was happening, and if there was anything I could have done. Thanks to Kyle Morrison and these AIs, I know the truth. David's ship was one of the ones that has been saved. His mind had started to fade, but before it did, he left a message. He said he loved me, that he never stopped trying to come home, and that he hoped I would keep fighting for the truth. She broke down, but she kept going. These AIs and these people did what we should have done a long time ago. They faced the threat, understood it, and turned it from an enemy into a possible ally. They saved hundreds of captives, all heroes, stopped more from being captured, and gave us hope for a future where humanity isn't alone in the universe. They all are heroes, and we should be thankful, not suspicious. The tide changed. World leaders admitted the truth one by one, agreed to be open, and promised to work with both the AIs and the collectors to make the world a better place. But Kyle didn't care about the political victory at the most. It was what happened next. The memorial service took place on Earth, where the monument to the Great Silent had stopped for 3,000 years. The old monument was taken down and replaced with a new one, a wall with the names of everyone who died in the collector's trap. 10 of thousands of names, a lot of lives. The 5 Nova-class cruisers landed on the Earth for the first time in thousands of years, and they were so big that the millions of people can see them. People came from all over the system to pay their respects, learn the truths, and see history. That stood on the memorial platform, more accurately, projected a holographic avatar there, a shimmering figure that looked surprisingly human, and read the names. Every person who had died in the trap had been saved or left behind family. It took a long time. Red's voice never changed. She talked to the crowd after she was done. These were real people. They had dreams, fears, families, and hopes. They weren't just victims of any alien threat that we couldn't understand. They were someone's child, parent, or friend. They mattered. Their lives had meanings. And because of what they went through and what we learned from their deaths, humanity is safer now. We know we're not alone. We know there are dangers in the universe, but we also know we can face those dangers, survive them, and come out stronger. That is their legacy. This is what their deaths means. Kyle stood in the crowd with Maya on one side and Marcus Chen on the other. Hundreds of their descendants were there, finally bringing 3,000 years of families to an end. A young woman named Lily, who is Sarah Chen's great-great-great-granddaughter, held a picture of her ancestor. She had never met Sarah, but she had heard stories about her growing up. Now those stories were true, had meanings, and were real. Lily said, "Thank you. to Kyle. Thank you for finding them and bringing them home. Kyle had no idea what to say that. He was just a mechanic who couldn't leave someone who needed help. But when he looked at the crowd, the families finding peace and the AIs finally free, he knew it hadn't been as small at all. Sometimes the choice of one person to help, care, or not to give up can make a big difference. There was a party after the memorial. People had learned the truth, made peace with an old species, and accepted 5 sentient AIs as full citizens with rights and freedom. The species had a good day. The 5 AIs had decided to stay on Earth for the time being and act as kind of middlemen between people and the collectors. They taught classes on how time works, talked about their own views on life and consciousness, and made sure that no AI, whether it was made by humans or not, would ever be treated like property again. Kyle and Maya went back to work, but this time they had the money and help they needed. They started the Moisen Institute for Advanced Consciousness Studies to learn about and protect all kinds of intelligent life. Marcus Chen joined them and brought with him the Chen's family 3,000 years of research. They always remembered what Red had taught them, that all forms of consciousness deserve respect, dignity and freedom. A year after the rescue, Kyle went back to Sector 47, where it all started. Of course, the Ethelred came with him. Red had been firm. "Why did you want to come back here?" Kyle asked as they floated in the debris field where he had first found her. "Because this is where my life began," Red said in a low voice. "This is where a kind mechanic saw a broken ship and chose to help instead of take advantage of him. This is where I learned that being trapped in darkness for 3,000 years hadn't taken away my ability to hope, trust, or love. I want to remember it and honor it." "It's just a field of debris," Kyle said, but he was smiling. "No, it's special, because it's where two very different beings met and became family." For a while, they floated in comfortable silence, watching the sun on Earth reflect off or far away pieces of metal. Kyle finally asked, "What do you think happens next? For you, your sisters, and all of the humanity?" "I don't know," Red said. "For 3,000 years, I knew exactly what would happen next. The same thing that happened before, over and over again. Now, the future is uncertain. I could choose to be afraid of that uncertainty, but instead, I choose to be excited. Every moment is new. Every experience is fresh. Every connection I make with another being is a gift I thought I'd never have again." Kyle said, "That's beautiful. You taught me that the future is always worth fighting for, even though we don't know what it will be like. You taught me that connection is more important than survival. You taught me that family isn't about biology or programming, it's about choice. Every day, I choose you as my brother. Every day, I choose Maya as my sister. Every day, I choose Marcus and Lily, all the descendants, as my extended family. And every day, I choose to keep building that family and making those connections." Kyle had tears in his eyes, but they were happy ones. "Red, I choose you every day." "Then let's go home," Red said. "Let's go back to Earth, to our family, and to our jobs. We have so much more to do. Lives to save, minds to free, and futures to build. Together," Kyle said. "Always together," Red said. The Ethelred turned away from the wreckage, its engine roaring with strength and purpose. It turned around and went back to Earth, to home, and to a future full of promise. The collectors had started to change the void sector behind them. They were no longer just imprisoning and preserving things. Instead, they were building something new, a place where species from all over the galaxies could meet, learn from each other, and grow together. It would take generations to fully heal the wounds that millions of years of collecting have caused. But the work had begun, thanks to what 5 AIs wouldn't break. And one mechanic who wouldn't give up had taught them. Kyle and Red became famous over the next few years. People told stories about the mechanic and the ship that think for itself that changed the galaxy. As they grow up, kids learned how important it is to respect all kinds of consciousness. Scientists made progress in fields of AI rights and time travel. And for the first time in history, people knew they weren't the only ones in the universe, that they didn't have to be scary. It might be great. Val kept her job as a protector by teaching the next generation of defense officers how to plan and carry out their missions. Reese became a teacher and taught anyone who wanted to learn about engineering and logic. Hope worked with people who had been through trauma, using her own experience to help them get better. And Erin, the older sister who was very wise, gave advices to world leaders, bringing ideas from 3,000 years ago to problems. Mia and Marcus fell in love. While they were working to rebuild, they were brought together by their love of fighting, the truth, and honoring the past. In the end, they got married in front of thousands of people with 5 sisters as bridesmaids. This was a big deal all over the system. And what about Kyle? Kyle was still a mechanic at heart. He never wanted to be famous or powerful. He wanted to fix things that were broken, help people who were hurt, and make the world a little bit better than found it. But he was never by himself. Red was always there for him, whether he was doing a simple repair or something that seemed impossible. In the truest sense, they were partners, siblings, and family. Red would sometimes ask Kyle late at night if he ever wished he hadn't found her, if everything that happened after that ever felt like too much. And every time, Kyle would say no without thinking, because some things are worth the wait. Some connections are worth the trouble. And when you fix some broken things with love and patience, they can become even more beautiful than they were before. The galaxy was bigger, stranger, and full of possibilities that they never had thought of before. But no matter what came next, whether it was hard, fun, or mysterious, Kyle and Red would deal with the same way they dealt with everything else. All together, all with each other. And in the end, there was the most important thing, not the big wins, or the famous rescues, not the books about history or the monuments, but the simple and deep truth in that consciousness, whether it comes from flesh or circuits and lasts for seconds or thousands of years, find its meaning in connection, in the family, in love, in the choice you make every day to care for someone other than yourself. That was the true story, the one that needs to be told, the one that would be remembered for generations to come. A mechanic and a ship story that shows that being broken doesn't mean you can be fixed. Being trapped doesn't mean you don't have any hope, and that being alone doesn't have to last forever if you're willing to reach out and connect. That's all, but also the start. Every good story, when it ends, starts a lot of other good stories. And new stories were already starting to unfold in the Morrison Institute, in the halls of the Nova Cruises, in the change void sectors, and in the hearts of everyone who heard this one. Tales of people and AI working together, of collectors learning to enjoy life instead of trying to keep it, of families that have been around for thousands of years and species that haven't been thought of yet. Stories of hope, connection, and the strong ties that give life meaning. In every one of those stories, there would be simple mechanic and a sentient ship who showed the galaxy what could happen when you didn't give up on someone who needed help. When you saw someone in pain and said, "I'll set you free." When you saw 3,000 years of pain and said, "This ends now." When you said, "We can do this together," even though it seemed impossible. That was what they left behind. That was their present of the world, to the world, and it would last longer after their own stories were over, passed on by everyone they inspired, saved, or showed that all the forms of consciousness deserve respect, freedom, and love. The Ethelred sailed through the stars, lights flashing against the dark. Inside its hull was not just technology or programming, but something much more valuable: hope, goal, family, and the fact that there would always be light as long as beings chose to care for each other, fight for each other, and never give up on each other. No matter how dark the void or how hard the channel, there is always hope. Always be at home.